In the boundless grasslands of the Maasai Mara, where survival is written in blood and dust, two lion brothers emerged into a world that asked for no mercy and offered no sanctuary. Lolparpit and Olbarnoti were born in 2005 within the Ridge Pride, a lineage of predators whose history was already steeped in conflict. From the first days of their fragile existence, their lives were shaped by a landscape that tolerated only the strongest, and by a destiny that would make them feared and admired in equal measure. Unlike the gentle legends of noble kings who rise to protect, their story begins with struggle and with the scent of conquest. They were not destined to heal, but to dominate. As young cubs, they witnessed the relentless competition of the pride. Siblings fought siblings for scraps of food, and only those with relentless determination would endure. The Mara itself became their first teacher. Hyenas prowled at night. Rival males threatened their pride, and even the harsh rhythm of drought reminded them that to live was to fight. From the earliest hunts, Lolparpit revealed an intensity that set him apart. His frame grew thick, his stare sharp, and his will indomitable. Olbarnoti, larger and heavier, carried a presence that seemed immovable, a quiet force of muscle and patience. Together, they did not embody gentleness. Instead, they grew into images of raw sovereignty, foreshadowing their path as conquerors rather than caretakers. The human eyes that watched them in those days were drawn not only to their youthful vigor, but to the aura of something fateful about them. Photographers, guides, and visitors sensed in the Ridge Cubs a fire that would not remain hidden. The Mara had seen countless lions rise and fall, yet Lolparpit and Olbarnoti inspired an unusual mixture of admiration and unease, as if nature herself had forged them to walk a different road. The path of these two was never one of quiet belonging. The pride of their birth could not contain the force that stirred within them. As they grew into adolescence, restless and insatiable, they broke away, joining forces not just as brothers, but as a coalition. At first they were five, bound by blood and ambition, but in time, only two would remain united. That fateful bond between Lolparpit and Olbarnoti was not built on tenderness, but on necessity. On a shared hunger to carve their own dominion, they entered the savannah as wanderers without territory. Hardened by rejection and propelled by desire, every roar in the night was both a challenge and a declaration of intent. Where others saw survival as a struggle to endure, they saw survival as the right to rule. From the first steps of their exile, Lolparpit and Olbarnoti began their inverted journey, the journey not of heroes who protect, but of anti-heroes who would rise through fear, violence, and the ruthless laws of the wild. As the years unfolded, Lolparpit and Olbarnoti shed the last traces of youth and stepped fully into the roles for which nature had prepared them. Their coalition, once formed among five brothers, narrowed until only these two remained side by side. What might have weakened others only strengthened them. The departure of the others forged a union that was less about kinship and more about survival. A brotherhood bound by conquest and endurance. They wandered through the Mara as nomads, pressing into territories controlled by older males. These were perilous years when their fates could easily have been broken. Yet in each confrontation they revealed not only ferocity, but also uncanny persistence. While many coalitions dissolved, under pressure, Lolparpit and Olbarnoti grew more determined with each test. Rival males fell before them, sometimes in the fury of open battle, sometimes in the silent retreat of lions who sensed the futility of standing their ground. Their path eventually led them to the Enkoyanai Pride, a family of lionesses whose future would be forever changed. With patience and relentless pressure, the two brothers displaced the ruling males, seizing control in the way lions had done for countless generations. In this victory, they stepped into the role of sovereigns. The Enkoyanai Pride became their realm, its cubs carrying their blood, its hunts serving their survival. From this foundation, Lolparpit and Olbarnoti expanded their reach. They were no longer mere wanderers, they were kings. Their roars echoed across valleys and plains, a proclamation that resonated far beyond the immediate pride. Guides and researchers began to mark their presence, chronicling the astonishing durability of their reign. Unlike many coalitions whose rule lasted only a few fleeting years, these two brothers extended their dominance with an endurance that defied expectation. It was not just their strength that sustained them, but their balance. Lolparpit carried a restless intensity, a drive to push boundaries and challenge rivals. Olbarnoti, broader and heavier, projected a calmer but equally lethal power, a weight of authority that could silence rivals without a single blow. Together, they became a symbol of balance within brutality. Two sides of a single force. The Mara during their reign was a stage on which they played the central roles. While the beast migrations thundered past their territory, elephants moved with solemn grace across the same plains, and hyenas tested the boundaries of their dominance. Yet through it all, the two brothers remained constant. Their presence a reminder that power in the wild is never shared freely, but seized and defended. Daily what set Lolparpit and Olbarnoti apart was not only their ability to conquer, but their ability to endure. Season after season, as droughts shriveled rivers and rains returned in torrents, they remained. Rivals came, young coalitions eager to claim territory, but most fell short. Tourists and researchers began to whisper their names with reverence, recognizing them as perhaps the most successful coalition the Maasai Mara had ever known. Their legacy grew not only in the cubs they sired, but in the stories carried beyond the savannah. Photographers captured them at dawn, their manes gilded by the rising sun, and those images spread across the world. They became icons, embodiments of the raw sovereignty of lions. Their fame was not an accident, was earned through years of resilience, through countless moments when survival could have ended but did not. Lolparpit, in particular, began to emerge as the face of the coalition. His scars told a story of battles survived, of wounds that might have felled lesser lions. Again and again he returned from the edge of death, earning the reputation of a lion who defied mortality itself. Olbarnoti, though less celebrated by name, was no less vital. His sheer presence ensuring that the coalition remained unshaken. In the chronicles of the Mara, many coalitions rise, blaze for a brief span, and then vanish. But the chronicles of Lolparpit and Olbarnoti stretch across more than a decade. Their names became etched, not only in the memories of those who saw them, but in the very identity of the Mara itself. Where others ruled briefly, they carved an era. No reign, however mighty, can last forever. The same savannah that had once crowned Lolparpit and Olbarnoti with glory began to turn against them with the slow inevitability of time. For lions, the passage of years is a silent enemy, striking not with sudden fury, but with the erosion of strength, the dulling of claws, the fading of speed. By their second decade, the brothers had achieved what few coalitions ever touched, more than 10 years of dominance. Yet with this triumph came the weight of age. Rivals, younger and hungrier, began to circle their territories. Once their roars sent challengers into retreat, now those roars were met with replies. The Mara was preparing to crown new kings, and the old sovereigns could feel the tide shifting. Lolparpit bore the scars of countless battles. His body was a map of survival, each wound a testament to defiance. More than once he returned from fights, so wounded that many believed his rule had ended. But time and again he rose, limping yet unbroken, embodying the spirit of a warrior unwilling to yield. His resilience made him a legend, but even legends cannot outrun mortality. Olbarnoti remained at his side, heavier and more imposing, yet also slowing. In the prime of their reign, his presence had been like a wall of muscle and authority. Now his steps grew heavier, his mane streaked with the shadow of decline. Still, the bond between the two endured. When Lolparpit faltered, Olbarnoti stayed near. When Olbarnoti tired, Lolparpit pushed forward. Their unity, once forged in conquest, became their shield in decline. But decline cannot be denied. Younger coalitions, fierce and coordinated, struck at the edges of their territory. Lionesses shifted allegiance, as nature dictated, seeking the protection of stronger males for their cubs. Slowly, piece by piece, the empire of the brothers contracted. Land once claimed through ferocity slipped away, not in sudden collapse, but in steady erosion. There is a cruelty in the natural order. A law as ancient as the plains themselves. The rulers who once commanded loyalty and fear are fated to be replaced. Lolparpit and Olbarnoti, once predators who brought terror, now became defenders, fighting a losing war against the inevitable rise of others. Observers who had followed their journey felt the weight of this tragedy. To see them in decline was to watch the unraveling of a story that had once seemed eternal. Photographers captured not only their power, but their frailty. Lolparpit limping, with half-healed wounds, Olbarnoti resting longer beneath acacia shade. The two lying side by side with eyes that seemed to acknowledge what was to come. And yet, even in their fall, they carried a dignity that set them apart. Unlike coalitions that disband and vanish into obscurity, Lolparpit and Olbarnoti remained together, facing decline as they had faced conquest side by side. Their tragedy was not only that they lost, but that they lost with a defiance that echoed of ancient heroes. They had ruled longer than most, survived more than most, and even in defeat they refused to surrender their bond. The savannah did not mourn. It simply moved on, as it always does, replacing old kings with new blood. But in the silence of their last years, there was a sense of finality, a recognition that something greater than a coalition was fading. Lolparpit and Olbarnoti were not just lions in decline. They were the embodiment of a truth that even the greatest must fall. When the last days of Lolparpit and Olbarnoti came, the Mara did not pause. Herds still crossed the rivers, vultures still wheeled in the skies, and new coalitions of males began to carve their places in the shifting map of dominance. Yet the story of these two lions did not fade with their bodies. Their names spoken by guides, remembered by visitors, and carried across continents through photographs and words, became part of a different kind of survival. They entered the realm of legend. The human mind has always sought to make sense of power and mortality by turning history into myth. In Lolparpit and Olbarnoti, people found more than animals. They found symbols. They were kings not crowned by ceremony, but by the raw verdict of nature. They ruled not by virtue, but by strength, not by compassion, but by fear. And in that stark truth, they became something elemental. Lolparpit, scarred and unyielding, came to embody the warrior who defied death. His repeated returns from the edge of mortality made him appear touched by something greater than chance, a creature forged in resilience itself. Olbarnoti, larger and quieter, became the image of steadfast loyalty, a brother who never abandoned his place. Together, they formed a mythic duality, the relentless fighter and the enduring guardian. As years passed, the narrative of their lives grew beyond biology and ecology. Local Maasai communities spoke of them with reverence. Guides recalled their reign with awe, and travelers retold the sight of them as a once-in-a-lifetime encounter. The Mara has seen countless coalitions, but rarely one that imprinted itself so deeply in collective memory. Their story carried echoes of epics, long told by human civilizations. Like Achilles and Hector, like Gilgamesh and Enkidu, their lives held both conquest and loss, triumph and tragedy. The savannah became their battlefield and their stage, a natural theater where they played roles larger than life. When they roared, the earth seemed to respond. When they fell, the silence that followed felt heavier than the sound of victory. To speak of Lolparpit and Olbarnoti is not only to recount the life of two lions, but to acknowledge how myth is born in the wild. They're predators, yes, but they were also vessels of something that stirred human imagination. The longing to find meaning in strength, in endurance, in inevitable decline. Their existence reminds us that greatness in nature is fleeting, but legend endures, even after their deaths. The photographs remain. Lolparpit standing with his mane battered yet proud, Olbarnoti walking beside him, their silhouettes cutting against the endless horizon. These images are no longer simple records of wildlife. They are icons, fragments of a saga, that future generations will look upon as proof that two lions once held the Mara in their grasp and left behind a legacy that time itself could not erase. Their song continues not in sound, but in story. Each retelling adds to the epic, each memory strengthens the myth. Lolparpit and Olbarnoti, the most successful lions of the Maasai Mara, now belong not only to the earth that once sustained them, but to the realm of timeless legend. They remind us that in the wild, as in human history, power rises, power falls, but the memory of the mighty becomes eternal. If you're enjoying the story, hit the like button and leave a comment sharing what has impressed you the most so far. Your support helps this content reach more people who love wildlife.